Aloha, it's Robert Stehlik with Blue Planet. Welcome to the Blue Planet Show. I shoot it right here in my home office in the garage, and I interview wing foil addicts like myself. I want to say a big thank you to our sponsors. This show is brought to you by people like you, Blue Planet customers who support our business. And when our business does great, I can do fun stuff like get on the water and do interviews like this and share it with the world. So thank you so much to our customers for your support. And I just wanted to mention too, the Wasp V2 wings we're talking about here in this video are available at Blue Planet, or they're on the way, so they're being shipped, and we should have them within a few days after this show airs. And if you're interested, call our shop. We can take pre-orders or ship them out right away. We probably going to be one of the first dealers to actually have them in stock. I'm stoked about that. And of course, the show is with Rob Whittall. He is the co-founder and head designer at Ozone. And he talks about the Wasp V2 design, really gets into detail on that after we go over his background and so on. And then after about 46 minutes, we start talking about the Armstrong A-Plus wing system, or basically the upgraded fuselage system. So that's really interesting stuff too. That was just released by Armstrong. And then my favorite part was at the end when we just kind of talk about life in general and the pandemic and how to live your best life. And so thanks so much for being a great conversation partner, Rob. And I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did at home, or you can listen to it as a podcast or watch it on YouTube. Either way, I do have pictures and video on YouTube, but listening to it as a podcast is another great way to listen to these super long interviews. So thanks so much for checking in. Welcome to the show, Rob Whittall. It's great to have you. This is actually the first time I have a designer on the show, someone who actually designs the products that we love to use. So thanks so much for joining us. You're where are you right now?
Thank you very much for inviting me on the show, Robert. I'm currently in Raglan, New Zealand.
Let's start a little bit just with your background. Like where did you grow up, and how did you get into water sports, and what's your business background and design background and all that? Just start from the very beginning and take your time, go into details, and tell us lots of stories.
No problem. Anybody that knows me knows I like to talk, so you're good. No.
Okay.
So it all started actually with in my youth with hang gliding. My father was a pioneer in the UK in the hang gliding scene, and so we grew up with hang gliding from the age of sort of 4 and 5 onwards. I got my first hang glider flight with my father on his back, sort of piggyback style, when I was about 5 years old. Those memories stuck in my head until I was 16, when I was actually allowed to go flying, and illegally go flying solo. In those days, the prerequisite was you had to be 16. So at 16, I'd shown a lot of interest in motorcycles, but my father steered me away from motorcycles and offered me hang gliding lessons instead if I would stay off the motorbikes. I said yes, went hang gliding for my first lesson, and just knew straight away that I found something pretty special. And from then on, it just blossomed into a hang gliding career, and I went around the world competing at hang gliding. Ended up working for some factories in first, I was just testing gliders to check that they'd come out of the factory to spec, and that they flew straight and everything felt how they should feel. Then I started sort of tuning hang gliders and trimming hang gliders and working with the sailmakers. And then after a few years of that, paragliding came along. Moved into paragliding because it seemed like a good thing to do. Anything that got me in the air more was attractive. So I was hang gliding and paragliding together. And I had quite a successful competitive career in both those sports. And it just sort of, everything kept pushing me towards the design. It wasn't something that I was prepared for, well, I was prepared for it because I'd spent so many years already working with designers and working within the trimming and testing of these things. And one day the design seat became available, and I sat down and started to learn to actually process these imaginary ideas into reality, and it's been a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Now with
so the 3D computer stuff you taught yourself, or did you get any formal education in that kind of like engineering or design like that? It's all self-taught.
It's self-taught. I'm very lucky that the Ozone program, for instance, is something that I've grown up with. So for me to use it, it's very natural because it's progressed from, a very basic design program in the early days to what it is today. And because I've grown with that, I can use it quite effectively. Some of the other CAD programs, obviously, they're complicated and written by other people, and such as SolidWorks and these kind of things. I can use them, but nothing like the knowledge, because when you know a program intimately, then you can get the most out of it. It might not have the most features, but if you can use the features it does have, then it can work well for you.
Okay, so I guess your earliest childhood memories that kind of got you into these kind of sports was flying with your dad on a hang glider, basically?
Yeah, well, my father's always been a sort of an adventurer. He sort of inspired us to, and gave us the freedom to go and explore and to push ourselves and to enjoy all these things. He was a motorcyclist, so we also grew up with motorbikes. He'd take us hill walking and let us climb rocks and trees that most parents nowadays would be pulling their hair out, going, "Oh my God, it's too dangerous! Don't let them do that." And my parents were just, "Hey, yeah, you think you can climb to the top of there? Let's see you climb to the top of there." So it was just encouragement all the time, which was, it's a very positive way to bring a child up. I think a lot of things I hear today are where parents, it's the parents' fear that holds the kids back. The kids have got tons of skills and they're ready to learn skills, but the parents are afraid, so they don't really let they don't let the kids do what the kids should be doing, which is climbing trees and rocks. And occasionally you might fall off and break an arm, but hey, guess what? It's good learning.
So they never tried to hold you back from trying crazy things?
Well, I don't think of them as crazy. I think of them as normal. I consider the people that don't do these things crazy, because you're here on this planet for some great experiences in a very short time. And with what I know is available to us in terms of sensory stimulation, I want to try all these things and do all these things, because there's a beauty and an expression in all of them, and so why wouldn't I want to do all of them? so I pretty much do all of them.
That's awesome. So
yeah,
so I guess your background was first hang gliders and then paragliders, and then when did you first start getting into kiting? How did you hear about it first, and how did you get into that, the kiting?
Right. Well, we'd just started Ozone this was the first, at the very beginning of Ozone. It was me and two friends, and we started it as a paragliding company. And so we were fully ensconced in the paragliding world at that time. And basically, kite surfing had just started, but I was a snow sport man at this particular juncture in my life. I was flying in the summers and snow sports in the winter, heavily into snowboarding and skiing. And of course, because I like to do everything.
Right.
So what actually attracted me was snow kiting. I saw this first image in a magazine of snow kiting, and literally, well, the following weekend I was chasing snow kiting because it was just, oh my God, whatever that is, I need to do it, because how incredible in the mountains with a kite. I could see flying already. I could see skiing and snowboarding. These three passions of mine all mixed together. And oh my God, I got to get up there and do that. So pretty much the following weekend, myself and Matt Taggart, now one of the owners of Ozone, we were in the car driving up to this place that we knew you could snow kite, and we had literally 2 days on 4-line handle kites and ram air 4-line handle kites.
Yeah.
And we went back to the office on Monday morning, and when you've got people that were buzzing like we were, there was no chance that our partners could do anything apart from say, okay, well, let's try snow kiting, because me and Matt were just fully enthused, and we wanted to make snow kites. So we set about making snow kites, and after a few years of snow kiting, mainly because we wanted to wait until the patent that Bruno Legano had finished, because we didn't want to step on anybody's toes. We couldn't afford to get into the business at that time. We were just a fresh paragliding business, and all the constraints of a new business, normally financial. So yes, we couldn't afford to pay the patent. So we just said, oh, let's just wait. We're not in a hurry. We're enjoying snow kiting. And then the patent ran out, and we sort of decided it was time to take a foray into the water as well. And so then in a roundabout way, I've ended up enjoying now all these sensations in the water, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So I guess when you started Ozone, that was before there was even like the inflatable leading edge kites and all that kind of stuff. It was just ram air wings, or So that was kind of the very early days. And that it was you and a friend who started Ozone?
Yes, it was me and two friends. We started the kite department later. That's when Matt came in. But in the beginning, yes, it was. We were. One of them was the British team manager for the British paragliding team. Then there was myself, and I was on the paragliding team. And my other friend, Dave, he worked for Airwave paragliders back in the day. They were quite a big brand or a big manufacturer. And we just decided to get together and do our own thing, because you always think you can do better than the people that you're working for. So we set out to have a go at doing that, because maybe there was a little bit of dissatisfaction in there, but it's a long time ago now, and it's a lot of water under the bridge.
Yeah. By the way, we have a really bad thunderstorm here right now, and there's like rain just pouring down, and it's probably, I don't know if you can hear it in the background, but it's really raining pretty loud right now here, and thunder and everything. But no worries. But so this was all like I guess you grew up in Raglan as well, and you're still based in, or where did you grow up in New Zealand? Was it New Zealand?
Actually, I'm an Englishman, and I came from Yorkshire, a place called Leeds, which is a very beautiful part of the country on the very few days that the sun does shine.
Okay. So, and then what brought you to New Zealand?
Oh, it's been a long trip. I guess what happened was my sort of international hang gliding and paragliding career took me all over the world. I've ended up living for quite a few years in Germany, quite a lot of years in France, the States, Spain, Dominican Republic. And then I always had this idea that I needed to go and sort of spend time in New Zealand because of the small population. There's only 5 million. And so I decided this sort of 15 years ago. And here we are. I made the decision to go to New Zealand. And I have left in between, but I've left only for work. But now it's been almost 13 years I've been basically in Raglan. And it's a great place. It's facilitated some amazing aspects of my life.
Yeah, I mean, Raglan is really a beautiful spot. We visited there a couple years ago, and yeah, it's just a beautiful place. So I can understand why you settled there. And then Ozone is based where's the headquarters of Ozone, or is there a headquarters?
There is a headquarters. There's a couple of them. The sort of kite surfing department is in Spain, near Barcelona, and the paragliding department is in France, near Nice. And then, for some reason, because I came here, the design department for the kites is in New Zealand. Right. So, also Matt, the owner, or one of the owners, lives here in Raglan. We've got a great test rider, Torrin Bright, who lives nearby as well. And if we need help, everybody wants to come to New Zealand for a holiday. So we only have to put the word out. Hey, if anybody wants some, a bit of testing time down in New Zealand, then, you're welcome. And normally there's somebody to come along. So yeah, it makes life pretty easy.
Yeah, no doubt. And then I guess you're also, I guess you're the head designer for Ozone, but you also design for Armstrong, right? Army Armstrong and Armstrong Foils. You do all their foil designs and the wings as well, or?
No, not at all. I'm a partner in the business. Obviously, Army's from New Zealand. I met Army. He's an infectious character. He's a really great spirit. And at that particular moment, I've known him for 5 years before this, but 10 years ago, I've known him for about 10, 12 years. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, when he started the foil business, he needed a little bit of financial help. So I got involved helping him financially, and the business got kick-started. And it was working, but it was a massive strain on him because, working between here and China and also being new to all this kind of business, it was pretty difficult. So I set about finding some other partners, and we all partnered up, and that was how sort of Armstrong really came to life. But in terms of design and development, I just help Army with the testing. I give him some ideas on what, I work with which profiles we might use on some foils, but I don't do anything apart from that. The A-wing is all Army. The true design is all Army. He's the guy I'm not plugged into the water. He's plugged into the water. I'm plugged in more to the air. So I see. I stick to what I do. For sure, there's theory that crosses both, but my sensitivity, I believe my sensitivity for design is in flying things, because I feel that I have just a better connection for that. Once we go into the water, just like I can jump on all kinds of hang gliders and paragliders and kites and feel what I want to feel, Army can do the same thing with all kinds of foils. And if I go testing with Army with the foils, he's testing for the high performance guy, and I'm testing for the kind of the average Joe, because I just don't have those super skills that all these true watermen have. I'm just a wannabe.
Well, you're born in the air, like you said. That was your early childhood experience flying, right? So that's kind of probably in your being, right? So that makes sense. So
okay. And Army, the funny thing with Army is that he's grown up on boats and sailing around the world with his father, and just has absolutely that connection. So it's the similarities are crazy, but it's just with different mediums.
Yeah, different medium.
Neither of us are mathematicians or scientists. We're all and which is something I always like to remind people, because some people are kind of surprised that neither of us have had any sort of formal education in this. But
Right.
what we have to understand is that mathematics and science are only explanations of nature. Some people are just plugged into nature and they don't need the mathematics and the science to be able to find the right answers. The mathematics and science are there so that we can try and have a broad spectrum of understanding of how something actually happens or why something happens. But it's only a language. It doesn't mean it's actually better than actually being connected. And, you know, someone like Army, I just say that he's plugged in, because you watch last weekend, for instance, we went testing some foils, just towing into some waves. And Army can jump from the very most high aspect wing with the fastest tail on, with the most shims in the back, so that the whole thing is as fast as possible. And he can just get straight on that, ride it, come back, change the whole rig down to something, something midway with a slower tail on and no shims in the back, and just an HS front wing or something, and ride it incredibly the second he stands on it. You know, I crash both of them for a couple of waves until I finally tune in, and then I can be like, whoa, yeah, I kind of got it, but I don't really feel comfortable. So yeah, it's like I said, I'm the average guy tester, and Amy's the guy at the top, because you obviously need a sounding board, because it's very easy to get carried away with performance. But I always feel like, hey man, just don't leave me behind.
Well, I mean, but it is so true what you said about the science part aspect of it, because you can't really, I mean, there's so many things that you think in theory they should work, but then when you try it, it doesn't work. So it's all about the feel and testing and R&D. I mean, that's, you can't really predict how something's going to work until you try it. You know, it seems like in these sports, right? So that makes a lot of sense to me. And yeah, so it's more about the background of understanding what is actually involved in the sport than the theoretical part is really the secondary, or kind of afterwards you can explain it maybe with the science, but that why it's working.
Well, I think what's also important is that everybody only goes home with a feeling, right? That feeling isn't tangible it's only tangible through yourself and through expression. You don't put that feeling into maths and science, do you, to go home and say, well, honey, I had this amazing day. I released the power of this wave, and at 2.5 tons of volume just behind me, I managed to, you're just like, that's not what you do. You go home and say, wow, it was amazing. The feeling out there was insane. So you're taking a feeling home. So you don't have to break it into science, or it doesn't have to be developed from science. The testing, for example, whether I'm testing a paraglider or a wing or a kite or foils, I'm only testing the feeling. It's what is the sensation that this thing is giving me? Is it easy to find it? Is it smooth? Is it progressive? Is it forgiving? Am I thinking too much to try and get the power out of this thing? Or, is the handling slow? Those are the things that are actually the relevant things. And for me, when something isn't working, then in my mind, I'm drawing this picture of what I've built, and then I'm trying to think, okay, so why is that not working? Why is it not doing that? And go back home and look at the computer. And when I say look at the computer, I just study the drawing of it, the 3D image rendering of it, and try and understand, okay, so it wasn't doing this, so maybe if I do that, it'll give me that result that I'm looking for, if it's better handling or whatever. But it's all through just feeling. I can't plug in some mathematical formula to say, give me better handling. It's, it's only imagination. So
it's all trial and error, right? So and also
imagination.
Yeah, I mean, also just like I always tell people, like for stand-up paddling or all those sports, where balance is involved and things like that, you can't really use your mind to. Your mind isn't fast enough. Yeah, it's almost like your nervous system has to take care of those adjustments, right? And if you try to think about it, it's just too slow. You have to kind of have that confidence that your body will automatically regulate it, and then just kind of so I mean it's really too it happens too fast for your mind to think about it almost, right? Yeah.
Certainly to be able to analyze it.
Right. So okay, so tell us how you got into making the wings. Like why did Ozone decide to make a wing?
Again,
The hand wing, kite wing, or whatever you want to call it.
This is a great scenario because I was getting into in the foil business with Army, and I was very SUP orientated. I really enjoyed SUP foiling. I still love SUP foiling. More than going towing into the bigger stuff or whatever. I just really love catching waves on the SUP. And then, I saw one of the slingshot wings, and I suddenly thought, God, you know what? With a guy riding it, riding a SUP with a foil and the wing, and I just thought, that actually is a really good way to get lots of time on the foil. And because I was SUP foiling, I just wanted more time on the foil because I wasn't that good at the time. I was crashing way more than I wanted to be. So I just, that's the way. And literally went to the guys in the office and said, I think we should make a wing. And a couple of days later, and literally it just all happened at the same time. Kai Lenny had just started riding Ozone Rios, and he just randomly sort of sent me an email out of the blue saying, hey, I don't suppose you're going to make any of those wings, are you? Yeah, just so happens we are. And it was a good little nudge as well, because we were going to do it, but it's definitely a little bit of an incentive having the idea that, well, Kai wants one as well. So I'm not the only guy here with my hand up saying we should be doing this. And it started from that. And it obviously, we've just launched the V2, and the V1, I can just say is, it was a reaction to something starting. And that was my reaction to this thing starting. And we are in business. At some point we have to put out a product, and I was very happy with it at the time because it did what we wanted it to do, and it's been relatively successful and people enjoy it. But I can definitely say that the V2, because there's been more time, is much more refined and just has a more forgiving character, much more forgiving characteristic than the V1. But let's talk about. It was a new sport, and everybody was just, hey, this is what I got. Hey, this is what I got. So, and it was nice because there was quite a few different types of designs out there, and development doesn't just happen in one person's mind. It happens through, seeing what other people are doing, and all right, okay, well, maybe I should try that and this. So now we understand the pros and the cons of the boom, having a boom, yes, and not having a boom, okay. And lots of other little things, bits and pieces, the slingshot had the inflated trailing edge. It was an interesting concept. It probably isn't viable in terms of a continuation at the moment, but maybe it'll come back later. But so you got to see all these new ideas and people throwing at it what they had. And now we get to refine the ideas and hopefully make them better and better, so that the sport becomes easier and more fun and more accessible.
I mean, it's pretty amazing that you had Kai Lenny as a test pilot right from the beginning. That's pretty awesome. So 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 let's talk a little bit about that V2. It looks pretty similar. Like visually, the design doesn't look like it changed a lot. But what are the things that you refined on this V2 version of it?
Okay, well, the first thing that we're looking for was a better balance in the hands. So the V1, I felt that you had to pull the back handle too hard all the time to get the power out of it, and there wasn't enough power in the front hand. And what I would like is more power in the front hand, and as you pull the back on, that power increases on the back hand to match the front hand, so you end up with a balanced power field. So we spent a lot of time on this, working out that to get that balanced power field. A lot of times, moving the handles up and down, just to get exactly the feeling that's required. The next thing we did was the
so when you're flying it, which handle do you use the most? Like I guess it depends on the size of the wing too. But is it designed so you would use mostly the middle back handle or the back handle, or which?
Okay, well, there are different theories and different styles and understandings. Our kites are predominantly built around the way that I like to stand, our wings. I like a wide arm stance. I find it much more controllable in many ways than the close arm stance. So predominantly I'm using the V, the end of the V handle at the front, and I'm always on the back handle unless it's blowing like crazy, and then I'll go one up. But pretty much our wings are designed around. Obviously, the most power is delivered when you're on the back handle, but our wings are designed around either on the front handle or in the V, and then on the very back handle is the most power. Once it starts getting really windy and you're feeling like you've got too much, then you can move in one. But that's where the big power is. And okay, it's quite a wide stance, but if you want to balance well, normally it's good to have your arms out. Most people don't balance very well with their arms in. So that's another reason why they have the arms out.
Okay. I'm putting on the headphones because it's so noisy here with the rain. I can't hear you anymore. It's a real downpour here. Kind of crazy. I hope it doesn't flood. We're kind of right at the close to the water, so I guess this garage flooded before, so hopefully it doesn't get to that point. But we had like a flash flood warning, so yeah, it's coming down. But yeah, like I find myself using mostly the back handle myself as well. Like on, just feel I get more power from having my hand all the way back. Okay, and then you added windows to it. Looks like, right? Let me just do some more.
We added what? Sorry.
Oh, windows. Looks like you added windows. You didn't. The original ones didn't have windows. We have some on order, and they're gonna have like our little Blue Planet logo on it. So nice. I think that's super cool that you let people put on their own logos on the Ozone wings. And then I have to say too, the way you have your factory set up and the ordering system is, I mean, because we're also dealers. Obviously, we sell the Ozone, and we sell Armstrong as well at our shop. But just being able to go online and place the order, and then see what's happening with the order, make the payment, and it's just a very nice system, and very clear about how long it's going to take, and when you're going to get it and stuff like that, which unfortunately is not the case with most of the other brands. So that's something
we're doing our best, and those guys have done an amazing job with the production facility. And just so that the listeners can understand, please, with the Ozone wings, pay attention to the detail that is taken in the manufacturing of these things, because it's actually our factory that we set up 20 years ago now in Vietnam. It's literally like a massive extended family. We look after our workers very well. We give them breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if there's overtime, which they really enjoy, we feed them again. We have health care. We pay above the minimum or the average wage. We try and people say we're a little bit expensive. Yes, we are a little bit expensive because we don't produce in China and we have our own factory and we're paying our workers more than is normal. But the reason for this is the quality that they produce for us, because we look after them and we have great systems and they give us their best work. And literally, if you look at the stitching, it's all straight.
So where's the factory based?
The factory's in Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City.
Oh, Vietnam. That's right.
Yeah. And yes.
And do you go there often? Do you travel to the factory often? I mean, obviously not last year, but usually do you go there regularly or?
Yes. It's important that the development and the designers spend time in there. Sometimes for both parties, it's good to see the difficulties in the manufacturing and construction of these things, because it's very easy to get carried away with complexity. But someone has to make the stuff, and then someone has to make the stuff at within a time schedule, because we can produce kind of the craziest things in the world, but they're going to cost an absolute fortune because there's so much time and effort into the production that nobody will want to buy them or pay for them. So everything has to be understood. So sometimes you can go there and just see a process that they're struggling with and literally modify the design so that the foot of the sewing machine just has 10 mil clearance next to a seam so that it can run free instead of them having to stop, lift over, put down again, restitch. So it's very small things, but we have paid massive attention to detail in manufacturing and construction. And I hope that your listeners and viewers can see that care that is taken.
Yeah, I just had an interview too with Annie Reichert, who's one of your team writers, and she said one of the nice features too is that there's two valves, so it's easier to deflate the strut now. Mm-hmm. And I've noticed like a lot of guys here on Oahu had problems with the strut bladder kind of folding in and then popping. So what did you do to fix that issue?
Well, it's basically now tethered on the inside. That's why the zip is up front. So it's easy to get in there. And whereas the front of the bladder could fall away before, now it's tethered. So it has
little strings attached to the end of the bladder to the strut.
But the other things we've done, obviously, you can see that we've now got a straight strut with a baffle rib in the center, whereas the previous model had the strut running all the way up and down along the sail to the trailing edge.
It was attached.
Yes, it was attached. The reason we've done this is to lower the center of gravity, because obviously when the strut is high, then it keeps the weight up high, which isn't really ideal. And so now we've brought it down lower, and that makes the wing sit more stable because the center of gravity is now lower.
I mean, it seems it also luffs better when you have that little panel, because it just allows the wing to kind of flutter easier, right? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. The other thing we've done is we've brought the tips further forward, so they're not interfering with the water as much when you start pumping, because definitely, again, the V1 was the wing we did that we had, and in the beginning we weren't doing that much pumping anyway, because we needed 25 knots to get going because we didn't even know how to pump. So the tips, as we got better and needing to ride in lighter winds, the tips got in the way of the V1. So they've been shortened by about 250 millimeters on the 4 meter. So it's quite a big difference. And that way you've got much more pump arc and without tip interference with the water.
Okay, that's nice. So Another thing I noticed is like your window placement is pretty similar to the Armstrong wings. And what I've heard people say is that it's kind of hard to see through the window because the top window is kind of too high to look through, and the bottom window is kind of covered by the strut, you know. So I don't know. What made you place the windows right there? Is that from feedback or like? I'm just curious.
The reason the windows are there is that personally I believe it's the best place for them to be in terms of how I would like the thing to be structured.
Oh no. For those listening, we just got interrupted by a power outage. My power here went out for a few minutes, and took a while to get it back up again. What were you talking about?
We were just talking about the windows.
Yeah.
And I was just explaining how making an excuse. I'm not quite sure which it was. So, no, the reason the windows are where they are is, first, you do have the ability to see. That's the most important thing. You might have to move the wing to be able to see. Yes, okay, I agree. But what I didn't want to do was put it in the next panel out, because that panel is too far out. And so the reason it doesn't cross a panel is because I don't like to have things like different materials in a panel crossing, because when they're sewn together, then you have different stretch characteristics, and especially in seams, it's better to not have different stretch characteristics, because somewhere that because in every seam, obviously there's more load, and at some point, if there's different stretch characteristics, it's not going to want to live next to each other properly throughout its whole life. So that's why the window can't be a bit further up, or because it either needs to be in the next panel, which is too high, or it's where it is. And like I say, it only takes a quick, I'm good, or I'm good. The fact is that you can. Without a window, you can't. So I'm a total advocate of the window, since the sport is getting bigger. People need to be able to see, especially on the water when you're with kite surfers, windsurfers, kite foilers, all these different craft now that are on the water. They all go upwind at very different random angles compared to each other. So you need to be able to see what's happening when and where on a regular basis. But if you have to look for it, then look for it. But you know, it's still your job to be aware of who's around you. And okay, the window isn't absolutely ideally placed, but it's still there. So you know, just move your hands 10 centimeters and you can see plenty.
Right. So, and then I guess another concern with the windows is that you want to be able to, you don't want to crease them, right, when you're rolling it up. And so I guess it's probably easier to roll it up without creasing it when it's right next to the strut than when it's in the middle of the window. Yeah.
Actually, with the material that we're using, it doesn't matter where it is. You can't crease that stuff. It's we got the special space age stuff.
Oh, okay. So it's not a concern.
No, it's not a concern at all. We've had our windows in minus 25 degree conditions in Norway, and we've been using them in, you know, hot desert conditions, no problem. So
are these pictures taken in Raglan, or where are these waves here?
These waves are in Fuerteventura.
Oh, Fuerteventura. Okay. Yeah, I guess Ozone is a pretty global company, huh?
Well, the good thing is the Spanish guys, where the main sort of part of the hub of the kite surfing department is, it's very easy to go to Fuerteventura or the Canary Islands, because they're you know, under the Spanish flag. So it's just a very cheap flight. So you can probably get flights for $50.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. All right. So basically the advantages of the new wing are that handle placement's better. The tips are less likely to catch. The leading edge diameter change at all, or
It has on the 4 meter. It's gone slightly bigger, but on the other sizes, it's virtually the same. The other thing is with that baffle in the baffle rib down the center, it's allowed us to increase the thickness of the profile. So there's a little more, or there's more power, and it's easier to access that power. The back handle is very, responsive in increasing the power, because we've got quite a high camber profile.
This is what you call the baffle here.
Yes, that's the baffle or the venter rib. So
okay.
It's one of those things that.
So does it have a deeper profile? Did you change the curve of the profile at all? So it's deeper in the front?
Deeper in the front than the old one. And that's another reason why it has more power. But the main things that you're going to notice when you fly it is it's much more stable. You just get on it and it feels plush is the best way to describe it. It's just plush. You just kind of, oh yeah, this is very effortless. Nice progression on the power. You will notice how the front hand is loaded quite nicely. So, for instance, on the V1, I was always getting my my lats aching like crazy on the backhand side. You just, oh my God, because you're just pulling the whole time in. And now with the front hand being more balanced than the backhand, it's just, I'm much more relaxed. So it's more comfortable to ride. It's more stable when you're just surfing on the front wing. The V1 had a tendency to flip over slightly regularly. The V2, it just sits there and doesn't do anything. It's making, generally, it just makes everything more comfortable. It's more user-friendly.
Mm-hmm. Is the weight similar, about the same, or the weight of the wings? It's about the same as the V1?
I think it's, to tell the truth, I can't tell you the weight because it's probably on the website, but I'm not really much of a numbers man. But it will have been weighed. I can only imagine that with the window material compared, the new handles are a bit lighter. We're probably looking at virtually the same weight. So it's quite a lightweight wing.
Right.
Certainly with the CG, with that strut coming lower now, it automatically feels in the air lighter because it just sits there. If you just get it up in a bit of wind, you're like, oh my God, it just flies itself kind of thing. So it feels lighter, but I think its actual manufacturing weight is very similar. Okay,
very cool. All right, so can you talk a little bit about the new Armstrong A-Plus system? Do you know much about that, or were you involved with that? With the work on that, you were? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm going to share some pictures of that, and this, I guess, when the time I'm posting this interview, Armstrong will have this up on their website, and so the new. They just announced it to the dealers, but this is the A-Plus system. So they made some changes to the as far as I can tell, the fuselage has these barrel nuts that go through the fuselage kind of horizontally, right? Or why don't you explain the differences?
Yeah, no, it's well, you're starting with the right thing. The first thing that everyone should understand is that everything that we currently have is compatible with the A-Plus system. So all the wings you've got, it's not a problem. They'll all fit, they'll all work, it's all good to go. The A-Plus system, as you can see here in this diagram that you have up now, in the photo you have up now, you can see now that there's a barrel nut on the top of the front wing. So if you go to the top, yeah, exactly right there. So that barrel nut is now going through top to bottom, which just locks the front wing on. And then you've got the barrel nut on the side of, so that's that one exactly, yeah. And then you go to the side of the fuselage, and we've got one going in horizontally. Yes, exactly, side of the mast, sorry. So we've got one going in horizontally that goes all the way through the fuselage and onto the other side. So basically, these are opposing forces that they tighten themselves together and squash whatever's in between just that little bit more. And as you can see, with this new high aspect wing, the HA 1125, this has got an aspect of 9.8 to 1, which is a very, very high aspect wing. These wings have, due to their enormous span and the fact that they are very powerful for their size, they have massive forces being created. So Army needed to develop a system that would cope long term with those forces. Now, what I can just tell you is you can stick that wing straight on the rig that you have with no A-plus, without the A-plus fuselage, and it will work and it'll probably be fine. But over a long period of time, you might notice that there's a bit of wear between the fuselage and the mast, because these leverage loads, when they just keep working and working and working and working, effectively it's like super fine grit sandpaper. Over a very long period of time, will start to rub each other and they'll make a little bit of slack in the thing. So that's why we've come up with the A-plus system, just to minimize that micro movement so that we're not wearing out the fuselage or the mast. But as I said, you can still use that wing tomorrow on any rig that is currently out there.
Yeah, and then they also offer a kind of a retrofit where you can actually, a kit where you can basically it has a jig and you can drill out that hole yourself and add the nut and screw basically to an older or an existing Armstrong mast and fuselage. So that's kind of cool.
You can't. Sorry, just to make one thing clear.
Yeah.
At the heart of the A-plus system is the fuselage, and the reason for that is because the barrel nut that goes through the mast and then through the fuselage has to go through the titanium, and this is a new hole. So you won't be able to have this barrel nut in if you have the old system, because your fuselage has a solid titanium and you can't drill that through the center of it. So the key thing for the whole thing is the fuselage. If you wanted to upgrade, you can buy a new fuselage and then you can re-drill the mast with the, you can drill the mast to put in the barrel nut across the mast, and you can drill all your front wings to have your front wing drill so you can put the barrel nut at the front. So basically, that's why but you can still ride with everything you've got, just putting new wings on. You just won't have the barrel nut in the mast and in the front wing.
Right.
So yeah.
So basically, the older fuselage you cannot you can't add those barrel nuts on an old fuselage, because basically you're saying because you can't drill through the titanium rod in the middle. Is that the issue?
Yes, okay. You can't drill through the titanium rod and tap it. It takes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then
there's still no problem in riding it without. It's just that over time that is going to get sloppy because of the fact that, or not sloppy, but there is going to be some play in there because there are massive forces with those super high aspect wings. Sure,
and that's I mean, in foiling, you don't want any play between the mast and the fuselage and the front wing, especially. If there's any kind of looseness, that makes the whole thing feel sloppy. Like you said, you want that to be super rigid and stiff. So I guess the other difference is the tail wing is different as well. Yeah, instead of having those titanium 3D printed shims, you're using plastic shims now, right?
Yes. Now the tail wing can go directly onto the fuselage. All existing tail wings can go directly onto the fuselage as well. Although the new A-plus system tail wings have just been slightly modified to basically fit it more elegantly. But all the stuff you've got now works, so there's no worries there. And the reason we did this was it's just easier to have a solid fitting with the mast and the tail wing, and just have the small shim adjustment if required. Because the titanium trim fairings, although they were great, they were quite expensive. Whereas
right.
we're giving these things away free.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things, like, you know, like what at retail, I think they're like $70 or something for one shim. So that's definitely not cheap. So yeah, I guess these ones cost a lot less to manufacture, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and we're very, look, the fact of the matter is that the Armstrong ethos and philosophy is, we basically want the best stuff that we can have to ride, because we're now of the age that we've been through enough sports and used enough average and crappy equipment, and some very good equipment too, to know that it's much nicer to have really good equipment. So yes, we maybe are slightly expensive, but that's because we're not really compromising, because we don't want to compromise, because we've got to go out there and ride it. And I'm out there for the best feelings I can possibly get, rather than something that will do. So that's why, we had the titanium shim fairing, because at the time, that's what we thought was the best thing. Okay, we've now learned that there's another way of doing it, and it's simpler and it's cheaper. So, if we can, anything that we can make cheaper, then we can, we will, because obviously it's good for the customer in the end.
yeah, as long as it doesn't affect the performance. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed definitely with foilers, once you get kind of addicted to the feeling of foiling, then price becomes less of an issue. I guess for beginners, they always, worried about price, but then once people get hooked, then I guess they're willing to pay for the drugs. It's like in economics, you call it price insensitive. Like
once you start mainline foiling, you don't care about the price. You just want the next hit. Just come on.
Yeah. You'll probably like start. Yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely the case that people just want to get whatever's the best thing they can get, So, yeah. But tell us about this new wing, the HS 1125. It's I guess the first really super high aspect wing that Armstrong made, right? Is that the case?
Yes, I think it's the highest aspect wing available on the market. I'm not 100% sure about this, but
yeah.
Well, basically, we've been in the throes of making this for a year and a half. Development is, of these kind of things is very difficult and time-consuming, because you're really looking for definite progress as such. And so, yes, this has been the result, and it really is quite interesting. If you're winging it, okay, obviously with the big span, you're going to lose some reactiveness, but you're going to be very surprised at how quickly this thing can turn. It still turns pretty damn good. If the tips come out, again, we've been working on the section of the tip to stop the tips ventilating, so the tips can come out, nothing happens, you just carry on. The glide is amazing, so you're pumping, and the timing that it takes, or put it this way, you don't even have to really contemplate your tacks. You just turn the thing upwind and slowly move your hands over and then bring it down, and you're still gliding with loads of speed and super easy. All right, okay, great. Just gently take the wing again and fly off. It's it's pretty amazing. It's a great step in our progress. We're not going to talk about the rest of the market, because the rest of the market is whatever the rest of the market is. But for us, it's certainly amazing, and we're all enjoying it. And when I first saw it, I just thought, oh, there's no way I can ride that. It's too out there. And now I'm riding it all the time. I just love it.
So, I mean, this is a pretty small surface area, but like in terms of lift, I mean, obviously high aspect, you always get a little bit more lift than on a low aspect wing for the surface area. But like compared to the other wings, like what is it similar in lift to like a 1250, or is it more like a 1550, or what would you compare it to in terms of the feel for the lift?
Lift wise, that's difficult. I hadn't compared it like that. I normally
Yeah.
compare the only limitation to a wing is getting up, getting the thing foiling.
Right. This how much speed it takes to get up.
Yeah, because it's high aspect, it doesn't have grunt. But once you get it going, it's got glide like you can't believe.
And low drag.
Yeah, low drag. So in that trade-off, yes, you lose the grunt at the bottom end, so you got to pump a little bit more, or needs a bit more wind to get going. But once you're going, the speed is phenomenal. The glide is phenomenal. I'd say you've probably got the speed of the 850 with the glide of the 1850 or something, but in a very different, but a much faster glide. Well, firstly, I haven't tried other high aspect foils on the market, but from within what we do within the Armstrong range, it's something completely abstract because it does everything very differently. It's still, an easy enough to use foil, but in the glide and the way it turns, it does turn well, but it's not like anything else. It's quite bizarre. But I think you're going to see a lot of people, maybe a little bit of initial hesitation, but once they get going on it, there's certainly if you're on flat water, oh my God, this is the wing. This is the wing. If you're wanting to ride waves, you can still cruise on waves with it, but it is a bit more technical and you don't have quite the maneuverability. But, I was with Army just the other day and he was railing the waves. So I guess once people get good enough and used to it, then, we'll be railing them everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I find too when you have a really high aspect wing, with the wider wingspan, if you have a longer mast, that allows you kind of to tip it over more. Or if the mast is too short in relation to the wingspan, then the wing ends up breaching real easy, or the tip comes out too easily, and then that makes it a little bit harder. But I think with a longer mast, you can go wider on the wingspan as well. But let's talk about
just to recap on that. It's a very good point. Thank you. We have put that wing is best used with an 85 mast or longer. For sure, you can use it with a 72, but the wingspan is huge. The tips are going to be out quite a lot. Then the tips can breach, and it's not a problem. But that's the trade-off with high aspect is that you are going to need a longer mast, really.
Mm-hmm. Right. So this tail wing, is this tail wing the same as this one? This one looks like it has like more V to it or something, yeah?
Yeah, this is one of the new tail wings, the Flying V. And this is a little bit, this is inspired a little bit by Skyrama. And then because the America's Cup is going on. Incidentally, the front foil, the HA 1125, has been through the Team New Zealand computer, their design computer, to be analysed and refined. So the best guys in the world have actually been looking at that and had input in what it is. So it really is about as cutting edge as we can get right now. And it's the same. It's the same with the tail. If you notice the tail, and if you look at the foils that are on the America's Cup yachts at the moment, obviously they're all V's, and so Army is very good friends with the sailors. Jimmy Spittle and Pete Burling, the two skippers. I mean, we're talking very good friends. They go towing together. They're foiling together. They're winging together. They're all involved. So there's been a lot of with this run up to America's Cup, because you're only seeing the America's Cup now, but obviously for us it's been happening for a long time because it's happening in New Zealand, and New Zealand is a very sailing orientated country, because it has a lot of coastline, and a lot of people live on the coast, so we're very water orientated. And we've also got New Zealand has a big history in sailing, so that has affected how our design at Armstrong has happened, because of sort of spending time with those guys and those guys being involved with us, and it's all just played off on itself. So it's been fantastic. And, you know, the knowledge that those designers have is, you know, phenomenal. And the computer power they've got is something that you can only dream of. You know, these are some of the most wealthy people in the world throwing money at designing the best things they possibly can. So yeah, there were some very educated eyes run over those foils.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, it sounds pretty cool. I was looking for this somewhere. There's some pictures of Jimmy Spithill foiling and stuff like that, but I don't have them on my computer right now. Try to look it up.
Yes,
yeah, but,
yeah. We've got a Jimmy and Pete head to head.
Right. That's awesome.
Isn't it fantastic as well that these super high-end athletes who and these guys are trained, these guys are fit, man, I tell you, they're not sat down drinking champagne and on the back of the boat going, yeah, this is lovely. These guys are highly trained athletes, and it's just, I find it phenomenal that in their free time they're running around chasing foiling because of the feeling. And you know, they're on the wings, they're doing downwinders, they're towing it with the army over, you know, on the East Coast and the West Coast. It's just like, yeah, this is, put it this way, their job is sailing, but their passion really is foiling. It's just,
yeah. So for yourself personally, do you spend most of the time on the water now on a wing foil board, or do you still go subfoiling, or what do you do the most when you get
Well, I'm in a very lucky position. I'm involved in everything. So I'm designing kites and wasps, and, you know, so basically I'm messing around on kites sort of 50% of the time, and then I'm messing around subfoiling 20% of the time, and maybe with the wing 30% of the time. So obviously my work and kites is still the majority of my work, because we have a big range that always needs tending. But for sure, I'd love to go for a wing, or
you do all of it.
Tomorrow morning I'll be subfoiling
Nice.
at dawn. Couple of hours of that, and then get sat behind the computer for a while, wait till the wind comes up in the afternoon, and then go for a kite or a wing. We'll see tomorrow. If new prototypes have arrived, then obviously I'm intent on writing new prototypes, whether that's a wing or a kite. But otherwise, it's either work or a little bit of play.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I just find, like you were talking about it earlier too, like when you get on the wing, like, you know, if you have a 2-hour session, let's say if you're subfoiling, you know, you might catch maybe 5 to 10 waves, and maybe spend, you know, you get like 10 or 20 minutes actually up on the foil if you're really good. That would be probably the max. Versus when you're winging, you can be up on the foil probably like 90% of the time, you know. So in terms of, that's why I think too, like when I started wing foiling, actually my foiling progressed a lot faster, because I spent so much more time getting comfortable on the foil and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it's helped my stand-up foiling as well. But now I kind of, when I'm stand-up foiling, I feel like, oh man, it's like I'm not getting enough time up on the foil, you know. So yeah. But it's all good fun, and I mean, I just love riding waves too. And yeah, sometimes the wing kind of gets in the way, but still, it's like my friend Derek says, it's kind of, you have an Uber ride back out, you know, like with the wing, you know. It's like you got your Uber ride back out to the break, you know. So you never you never have to paddle and stuff like that. Sorry, go ahead.
I think that's why I like the wing quite a lot at the moment. I'm sure there'll be something else come along soon, or maybe not soon, but there'll be something else come along. But what I like with the wing is that you get so much diversity with the foil on the wing, because I can go supping, then if there's a swell, I can do some downwinding with the wing and ride some waves or some bumps. And then if there's some real waves, then I can ride the waves with the wing. And if there's no waves, then, just going around and messing around, just practicing your taps and jives and some 360s and blah, blah. It's all very sort of therapeutic and enjoyable. It doesn't matter. It's, oh man, look, there's no waves. No problem. Let's do this. It's a great tool for a diverse sort of enjoyment.
Yeah, and it also opens up the sport of foiling to pretty much the whole world. Before you had to have like a wave or a certain type of wave even for foiling, and now it's just like, all you need is some water and a little bit of wind, and and you have a huge wind range too. If you have a big wing, you can go in really light wind, and if you in strong winds, you can still wing foil.
Again, for me now, I'm either riding the 4 meter or the 3 meter in whatever the wind is. I don't, if it's strong, then I'll be on the 3 meter. But if it's light, I never go bigger than 4 meter. And I'm happy to change the wing under the water to have more fun riding. Then I always prefer to have a smaller wing in the hand rather than, just for maneuverability and comfort. It's much nicer. I'm not a big dude, but maybe the big guys feel happy with a 5. But the 4's good, but the 3's super nice as well. And I can normally pump up with the 3 in the same strength wind as I can with the 4 if I just go up with size in foil. So I'd much prefer to ride it. 1250 is my standard, but I'd much prefer to put a 1550 on and stay with a 3 meter in my hand than compromise that. Because once this is small, you have to worry much less. So doing the taps and jives and tricks, and once you get on waves, it's just like,
having a small wing just makes everything so much easier. But when you on a 4 meter wing, what's the lightest wind would you say you can go out and with a 1550 or in a 4 meter wing?
I'm pretty confident that I'm good in 10 to 12 knots on a 1250 and a 4 meter wing. Okay, it's not pretty, the pumping up, but I look like I'm having some kind of epileptic fit, but we get it going. And
sometimes it's just waiting for that little gust too, I guess what people, when you start out, it seems like you need a lot more wind to get it going, but once you get good at kind of popping up on the foil and maybe waiting a little bit for the right gust and then quickly popping up, once you're up on the foil, it's so efficient that you really it's almost like you could almost go down half the size once you're up on the foil, right? Like once you get it going and you have that apparent wind coming at you.
Once you're up. Yeah, exactly.
So
quite incredible, really. It's when you think how far it's come in such a short time, both the foil development, and the foil development isn't happening just because of the wings, but now the wings are definitely helping foil development because it's giving us another opportunity that we weren't thinking of before. But just in a year and a half, we've come so far with some nice foil wings now, and the hand wings are getting better. It's only going to get easier and more fun in the future.
Right. So do you have, like you were saying, there's probably going to be another thing coming in the future. Do you have any ideas or crazy ideas about what could be next, or things you want to try, or future technologies you're playing around with?
I've got a feeling the advent of the electric battery age and the electric power age is you know, we're scratching the surface now with the foil boards, but I can imagine a little electric power pack either on your back or something where it's more of a fan rather than, so, you know, just like a paramotor, but electric, that's waterproof. A bit like the diving things that they use underwater, but above water. And it's just a fan where you go out there and you just
to accelerate up on top of the foil. Yeah.
To get out. And then the wings are so performant that you can just, some little pumps every now and then if you want. Go out, catch some waves, do whatever. I mean, who knows? Yeah. Put it this way. The human imagination can take us anywhere. You know, it's just, it's a case of a little bit of time and effort. So I'm sure we're going to see some things. Yeah.
I mean, I was wondering too, if there could be like a combination between kind of winging and kiting, like where you have some short lines that you can like kind of let the wing fly a little bit higher. I mean, my friend Derek actually does that. He has like this long line on his wing, and then he just lets go and holds it by the line, and it's higher up in the air, and he gets, you know, and light wind that helps because you get a little bit more wind once the wing is up higher, right? Yeah, more power. And
sorry,
and so, yeah, no worries.
Just speaking of power.
Oh, your battery's running low. Yeah, battery technology is not quite there yet, no?
No, well, not on a 5-year-old Mac.
Yeah. Oh, cool. So, yeah, I mean, what else do you want to talk about? Anything else you want to get into?
I'm not really. Well, honestly, Rob, I think we've covered a lot. It was good.
We sure did.
Yeah, I think we're about there. But like I say, it was a total pleasure being on, and I hope that it brings some form of entertainment and maybe entertainment's the best thing to people out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking about like you know, how people that are addicted to foiling, they'll spend the money to get the best things that they want, but also in terms of consuming information, you know, like I'm always surprised how many people actually listen to these interviews and listen to the very end. So, but especially, you know, all this stuff you talked about is super interesting. I mean, I'm really interested in it, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people who are going to eat it up, you know. So
Oh, excellent. Well, either way, I certainly don't profess to be any kind of expert. All I'm imparting is my understanding and my feelings. So, I totally understand. Everybody's different. Some people like this, some people like that. I've got no problem. We're just doing what we can do and enjoying what we can enjoy.
Right. Well, if you're not an expert, I don't know who is, but I guess none of us are experts. So
it's really not me.
But that's,
I'm just having a good time.
Yeah.
If people like the things with the feelings that we create, then that's fantastic. You know, it's because that's what it's about, really. We're just facilitators, and we're just sharing a common feeling. And so people that like our feeling, then fantastic. And people that like another brand's feeling, no problem. Go and enjoy it. Just the main thing is people are out there experiencing, you know, and enjoying sport and life and the nature.
Yeah, actually, there's a couple more questions I wanted to ask you. I almost forgot. So usually I ask all my guests, like, who should I interview next? Like, who do you think would be good to get on the show and talk about wing foiling?
Man, I mean, unfortunately, I think I'm going to say someone who's probably difficult to get on the show, but I think it'd be interesting to know what Kai thinks.
Kai Lenny? Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mainly because, you know, I'm impressed with this guy, not because he's chosen to ride some Ozone stuff at the moment. That's by the by. I'm impressed with the guy because, God, man, he can cross over all these sports. And, you know, just like I was talking earlier with how difficult I find it just to cross over between some foil setups that Army's messing around with. But this guy can go pretty much next level on everything all the time, you know. And he's you know, he obviously loves his winging because he took one out to Jaws. I mean, holy shit.
I mean, yeah, I saw. I mean, some of that footage where, I mean, he's just on a regular foil board, but it's like he catches air and it's like he's floating down the face, almost like a pelican flying along
Yes.
the front of the wave, just on the updraft of the wave. It's almost like paragliding, I guess. Yeah, like what he's doing. It looks like he's just like hanging in the air for a long time.
Well, he told me via email. I'm not pretending like we're friends or anything, although I'm sure we're friends. But he told me by email he expressed that he wants a wing to be able to fly down Jaws. And of course, you know, my background being flying, I can see straight away. And obviously, with now what I do in the surf, I know how the wave advancing through the water just creates its own updraft. And as soon as he said it, I'm just thinking, God, yeah, it's possible. And so we are working on a special wing for him to do that. But, you know, you can't hold a good man down, and the guy wants to do it now. So the prototype that he was on, I didn't really think was ready for that kind of thing, but he decided it was. So off we went.
Oh, that's cool. So you're actually working on a kind of a glider wing that can basically float in that updraft that's coming up the face of the wave and just like float on it.
I wouldn't say at the moment. We're just working on a special wing. We're just working on a wing for him to satisfy what he would like to try and do. So
that's awesome.
You know, I don't know if that's a wing for anybody else or whatever. It's just look at what the guy can do. Let's if we can facilitate him to do something else amazing, then holy shit, let's do it. You know?
Right. Yeah, totally. That's good. Yeah. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is just, you know, the whole pandemic and the whole situation in the world, and, you know, how you've been dealing with it. And I know, like, in New Zealand, you guys have been probably one of the few countries where you're, like, I guess, pretty much unaffected by it at this point, right? Like, you can just go out as normally and go shopping without a mask on and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, but how has it affected your life, and is there a silver lining to it, and how have you been dealing with it personally?
Okay. Excuse me. So the silver lining to it is that basically society, the human species, is also like a muscle. And if you don't stress that muscle from time to time, it doesn't get stronger. The muscle is currently being stressed, and already we're beginning to show signs of strength. And we were weak and we were vulnerable. And now we're beginning to understand that there's bigger things at play that include the ecology of the planet, and the potential for human existence to go forward is probably with a little bit more awareness than we were displaying beforehand. So in that respect, yes, there is a silver lining. For myself personally, I've been very lucky. I had to go to the States right in the middle of this thing, which I didn't want to do. But I had to go to the States. Then I went to the Dominican Republic. Then I went to Spain. Then I went to the UK. And I think I went somewhere else too. Where else did I go? Germany. And then I finally came home, and I managed to dodge COVID the whole way. And I came back to New Zealand, where life is just carrying on totally as was, which is a blessing and fantastic. And as I came here and just drove into town and saw people everywhere and restaurants full and people living normal life after the 4-month trip that I'd had, where nothing was normal, it was very galvanizing in my gratitude for being here in New Zealand, because with a small population, it's relatively easy to control. And at the same time, it made me truly appreciate that there are people who are having massive discomfort and hardship because of this event. And I hope that it gets cleared up soon and we can return to some form of normality. But I hope that normality is with a lot more awareness of and gratitude for life. You know, we take it all so for granted, and we're also very selfish, including myself. You know, and so if there's anything that opens our eyes to that, then I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think just being able to connect with people like we are now over Zoom. I mean, I never used Zoom before the pandemic, and now it's like normal. Everybody knows how to do it, and I can send someone a link, and we can talk like this and see each other and talk like we're sitting across from each other. So that's pretty cool. So when you came back to New Zealand from all the travel, what was the procedure to go back and I don't know what is the procedure. I thought New Zealand was completely shut down, that you couldn't travel back and forth, but I guess
you can only travel to New Zealand if you're a resident or a citizen. And when you came back, you had to go into a 2-week quarantine, and it wasn't you know, it was relatively strict, but it wasn't terribly strict. And you got tested twice, and if you were clear, then you were allowed out. It seems to have worked quite well. But like I say, this is a big island where there's lots of satellite communities. There's only 5 million people. Everybody's relatively well educated. If you couldn't control it here, you couldn't control it anywhere. And although there's a lot of praise for the Prime Minister, she did do a relatively good job. But like I say, if you couldn't control that here, then, you know, you're pretty helpless, because this is the ideal place for being able to control it.
Yeah, I mean, Hawaii is an even smaller island, or islands, group of islands, even less population, and we weren't able to keep it out. You know, I mean, I guess because we're so tourism dependent, they just waited too long to shut it down. But you know, I don't know. I mean, you can. Yeah. It's also like it's a trade-off. You know, like how much economic damage is it worth to save those lives? You know, like, I don't know. It's a hard question. You know, so
yeah, it's a hard question. But the biggest problem is that I find the question disappointing. You know, how much economic damage? We are so economically minded that we've lost really the true value to life, because economics comes before life. And to a certain degree it has to, or it has to come in unison. But let's face it, economics has been at the forefront of modernized existence for, let's say, at least the last 100 years. It's all about economics now. And we forgot to nurture any of the requirements around nature that can help keep us fit. Recognize that, you know, we were over tourism everywhere and everything. And it's not, we've actually found that it's not healthy. It's healthy for making some money, but at the same time, it's terribly unhealthy, because there's people traveling on planes everywhere, and basically all they're doing is consuming and leaving junk behind, and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, okay.
It's true, and they're kind of destroying the places they're visiting too, you know.
Yes,
like
it's all on under the economical banner. Well,
right.
You know, how healthy is economics? Not very. So we need these things to push us and to make us progress forward.
Right. No, I totally agree with that. Yeah, especially just the environmental impact that we're having on the earth, obviously, like the global warming and stuff, that all the concern about that kind of took a backseat to, you know, let's control this pandemic and at any cost. But I mean, I guess one of the results was, you know, less travel, which resulted in less pollution, right? So definitely, yeah, all that air travel all over the place is definitely not good for the environment. But it sure is fun to travel. It's something I'm looking forward to being able to do again, you know.
Yes, yes. Oh, me too. And I love travel. I've been traveling all my life, but I can recognize that pretty much every flight I've ever bought has always been a proper price ticket. I don't really use many of the small, super cheap airlines that are just literally bussing people around Europe, delivering them so that they can, instead of being in England consuming, they take them to Spain and let them consume there and lay in the sun for 2 weeks and then ship them back again at $49 a ticket. So we're working on a mass scale rather than an economically viable scale where you're paying $300 for that seat. They've just minimized it. Lots of flights, super cheap, get them going, we'll make the money. It's one business model, but it's a business model we don't really need. There has to be a price for that travel, and if we make it too cheap and too easy, then yes, the effect is on our atmosphere. Everyone gets a cheap holiday, fantastic. Actually, it's better to have an expensive holiday and have less of an effect on our atmosphere.
And I think somehow there has to be a way to kind of price the damage that you're causing into the cost of the ticket, like that, because that $99 ticket probably causes like $200 worth of environmental damage, so that needs to be somehow taxed, or it needs to be calculated into the cost of that ticket, because like in the long term, we got to be basically de-incentivize being wasteful and polluting.
But I think also one of the things that this has done is it has incentivized people to stay at home and enjoy where they live, because people are always having these ideas about, oh my God, it's going to be so amazing if I get over there. Hey, open your eyes. Most of the time it can be amazing right in front of your door, but you've got these aspirations for something over there, so you can't really get in and focus and enjoy what you have, because that's the thing that's going to bring the joy, and you've only got this and I want that. Well, hey, you can't have that, so you better start looking and enjoying this. And New Zealand tourism now is surviving from New Zealanders, and there's only 5 million of us, and we used to have an influx of God knows how many million every year of overseas tourists coming, and we haven't had it, but we're surviving. There you go. People are traveling within the borders.
I've been living here on Oahu for over 30 years, and I just for the first time went to this on a hike to Ka'au Crater. Like, I've never been there, and just being up there on the mountain and just seeing this view and being out there is awesome. And it's like, probably just as good as traveling around the world to see something somewhere else.
Exactly.
So and it's really, that's what the cool thing about traveling is, that the sense of adventure and seeing new things and having new experiences. But a lot of that you can experience much closer to home if you wanted to, right? So just the mindset. Cool. Well, so what do you do to keep a positive mindset and stay healthy and young at heart and so on? Like, any secrets to life that you can share?
The staying positive, that's a choice you have every day. You wake up in the morning, you can either make it a good day or a bad day. You can turn your problems that are actually only molehills into mountains. That's all your choice. And what I try and do is wake up and be grateful to be alive. If the sky is gray, enjoy a gray sky. If the sky is blue, enjoy a blue sky. You're breathing. You've got a chance to have the next 18 hours while you're awake, or whatever it's going to be. So just get up and go and make your life happen. Be active, motivate, connect with nature daily, and
those are great tips. I agree. Like, it's almost impossible to be in a negative mindset if you're grateful for everything you have, right? So if you remind yourself of the things that you can be grateful for, that's definitely a good way to stay positive, right? And then the other thing for us, getting out there, getting on the water, getting into nature is always a good way to
It's also, I feel very lucky that I don't have a TV, so my life isn't indoctrinated with other people's rhetoric. It's only indoctrinated with what actually is my day and what is within my realm. And for sure, you can say that it's good to know what's happening over in Guatemala or whoever or whatever, but I can't affect it. Its relevance to me might be life-threatening, but I'll deal with that when it happens. And the best thing I can do is to not have all that extra noise affecting what my real life is and my real existence, which is what I have here. So I cut all the peripheral noise, and the TV is the biggest mind-altering vehicle that has ever been created, and it generally feeds, in the modern day, drama, and people bring that drama into their own lives because they see it on TV every day and too much of it, and it's all over dramatized. So that's now how they think they should be reacting to things that happen, whereas it's drama, it's TV. They're overreacting to everything, and what you should be doing is switching it off and doing anything else.
All right. Well, that's a great way to end the interview, I think. Yeah, that's really good advice. I don't watch the news. I like to stay informed, but usually I try to read it, and from a good source. I like to read The Economist and get all my information from that.
Yeah.
It's like basically all I need to know about the world, and it's kind of it's kind of dry. Like, helps me fall asleep.
Something like The Economist has intellectual content. Fantastic. I like The Economist when I sit down on a plane and it's in the rack or whatever. Give me The Economist. But what I'm talking about here is this is mind-numbing pollution, and it seems to me that the mass of the population hasn't worked out that this is a tool just to take over your life so that you go and do what they want you to do, which is spend money, and they don't really care about you. It's just spend your money, buy this latest thing that you don't need, piece of shit, junk, because, well, whatever, and overreact to things because you've seen it on TV. It's just like, man.
Yeah, and eat junk food, don't exercise.
Oh God,
and consume lots of drugs and die young. Yes. After you spend millions of dollars on medical care. That seems to be like how they want you to live your life, right? Yeah.
Exactly. It's absolutely nuts. And there's such beautiful lives to be lived if you just wake up and actually take control of your own life and live it and stop with all the junk and the peripheral rubbish. And it's so easy. One of my favorites is people don't believe that you can be happy all the time because there has to be a yin and a yang. Why not? I'm pretty much happy all the time, and there's no secret to it. It's a choice. You can, something comes along, it affects you, you're like, oh, bummer. Oh well, at least the sky's still blue. Oh yeah, fantastic. Where do you want to? It's where you choose to put your thoughts. You just, if they're in a shit place, take them away, put them somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like having a default. Your default is happy, and sometimes you kind of get knocked out of it, but then like you get back to your default state, which is don't let it affect you for too long. It's just to remind yourself, like, okay, this is not how I am.
Most of the time, if it's not life-threatening for you or your family, guess what? It doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's true. All right. Well, great. I think that's really good stuff. Love it. Thanks so much, Rob.
It was nice talking to you, Robert. Thank you very much.
Yeah, good to talk to you. And then
I really appreciate it.
When you come out with some new stuff, I'll hit you up again for another interview and keep it going, maybe in 6 to 12 months or whenever there's new stuff to talk about. Yeah.
No worries, anytime. But also, thank you for your enthusiasm, bringing you to generate this and make all these kind of things happen, because it's the enthusiastic people that help spread the knowledge. So thank you very much.
All right. Yeah, no problem. I mean, I do it because I enjoy it, so it's easy. All right. Well, have a great night, and we'll talk soon. Aloha.
Thank you. It alkalizes you, yes. I'm a bit of a tweaker when it comes to. I like to balance my bad habits with some good habits, but I've got plenty of bad ones too.
So you drink water with apple cider vinegar and what else you said?
Baking soda.
Baking soda. So alkalizing. I've heard that putting a little bit of fresh lemon juice in the water also alkalizes you, even though it's an acid. So it doesn't make sense, but I guess it alkalizes your system. That's what I've been drinking.
I believe it does.
Yeah,
yes.
That's what I've been doing in the morning. I just drink water with a little bit of lemon juice in it. It seems to work.
I'm actually told this is one of the best ways to start the day, but I can tell you how to make it even better for you.
Okay.
There's only a certain amount of effective goodness in the juice. The best thing you can do is freeze the lemon, and in the morning, grate the lemon with the rind. So you're taking a bit of internal as well as external, and a lot of the goodness that's in the lemon is in the rind. So by doing that, so that's my go-to first drink of the day is grated lemon, frozen lemon into water. That's my first one. Then I get onto the coffee. Yeah,
I love coffee too. I don't think I'm ever gonna stop drinking coffee, but it's easy to get addicted to the caffeine, but I find that one of the hardest things to quit, right? I mean, it's caffeine. But yes. Yeah.
Like I say, I'm addicted to many good things. Coffee's another one.
Yeah.